Hey everybody, microphone working? Yes, okay, good. Alright, time for the weekly news recap for the 4th to the 10th of July 2022. So we don't have too much really to discuss this week, but Nacon, who are a French publisher, had a presentation this week where they showed off these games, most of which I'd never heard of, so that's always interesting. So I'm just going to show the trailers for a couple of them. The first one is like a Terminator survival thing. They don't have too much information about it, it's just a CG trailer, but all they've said is that it is based on the Terminator IP. It'll be following after Judgment Day, so the second film. The only two good Terminator films, basically. And it'll be some kind of open world survival thing. So chances are you're not playing as a Terminator. You're playing as somebody trying to survive the Terminators. How far after Judgment Day it is, who knows? It looks fairly modern, but also, Judgment Day was at some stage in the 90s, so who knows? Anyway, not a whole lot to say about it at the moment. They're just basically saying, yeah, we're working on it, but it's like 3-4 years away or something like that. Then we had Raven's Watch, which kind of looks pretty interesting to me. It's going into Steam Early Access the start of next year, and it is a kind of Diablo clone where you are playing as a bunch of grim fairy tales characters that have been twisted so that they, can be a bit more action oriented. So you've got like Red Riding Hood is now like an assassin person who can also, is also a werewolf, which is, pretty standard when you're trying to adapt Red Riding Hood for an action thing. Pied Piper is like a summoner, like a Pikmin type, only he has rats, which is, again, pretty standard. Like, these are all pretty standard things that you would do if you had to do it. Beowulf is not one you normally see and isn't obviously a Grimm's fairy tale character, but he's at least an interesting addition because it's the character you don't typically see in these kind of games. And Snow White is like evil Elsa by the looks of things. But the actual gameplay itself is isometric Diablo style hack and slash stuff. So I like a Diablo, and I've been looking for a Diablo that isn't Diablo because Activision. So I'd be interested to see how this turns out, but again, we don't have too much information about it. It's turning early access 2023, but it will be coming to, as you can see at the bottom there, PlayStation and Xbox. So they are planning a console release. There will be an early access at some stage next year. Yes, this will be a difficult video to watch. I doubt it. I don't know why this is only for 18s plus people, but whatever. So this is actually more of a concept art run through of Hell Is Us, because we don't know how it, again, as will be a running theme with all of the games shown off at Nacon. There's not a whole lot known about it, but Hell Is Us has a pretty interesting art direction going on that I'm kind of digging. It's like, fantasy, magic, melee combat, but also modern / near future kind of stuff, but it's basically just this guy talking over concept art. And to be fair, the concept art's pretty cool. Skip to the weird stuff. See? Weird shit. Weird shit happening. Hollowing out people. I think they skipped to showing off some actual main character stuff. Right, so it looks like you're like ahead of some kind of like pilgrimage type thing, but you are like going off into ruined modern urban cities and dealing with whatever is hollowing people out, I guess. But again, not a whole lot to show in terms of gameplay. And we got a quick look at Gollum, definitely the character that comes to mind when you think, hey, we have the Lord of the Rings IP, let's do a game about Gollum? Really? Okay, whatever. Not typically an action-packed character. The game is going to be pretty much entirely a stealth game. So they're showing off the first gameplay of it. It looks fine, I guess. I don't know. Playing as Gollum doesn't exactly appeal to me. I'm more interested to see the take on the other characters and art style, so that it's not the films. Quick look at Gandalf there. There's very much not Ian McKellen and so on. So that's kind of what I'm more interested in, rather than the actual gameplay of Gollum hiding from things. It also appears he doesn't have the ring. I think the idea is that he's trying to get it. I think this is how he catches up with Frodo. I think that's what the story is. After he's caught by the Nazgul and think that's what the story is meant to be, but I don't know. There they are. There's the lads. There's the lads now. Steel Rising, which you've seen already. I've talked a little bit about it on the channel because it looks kind of interesting. You're playing as a animatronic dancing mannequin kind of thing that's been repurposed as a combat mannequin, I guess. Puppet, I don't know what way to put it. But yeah, it's sort of got some Bloodborne-y vibes to it, but from what I'm seeing now from the combat, it's probably not going to play like that. It seems a bit more action focused as opposed to just not getting killed focus as Bloodborne seems to have. This trailer again shows off a bit more of the combat, and they show off what are probably going to be boss fights. Got this guillotine. There's a couple of other different, like, fairly standard giant knight type enemy somewhere. That guy? Well, maybe not a knight. I don't know. Either way, these are probably like the boss type enemies. Combat still looks a bit janky, but I guess you still have to kind of go with the conceit that it's not an actual person. It's like a robot, basically, so it's not going to be fluid. But again, that still feels like it feels like a real get out of jail for them for why the animations look janky. They're robots. Just deal with it. Anyway, Ad Infinitum is an interesting concept, but the trailer itself, they probably could have done another pass on it. Like alpha footage, it stutters quite a bit. There are some serious frame rate issues in the trailer itself, which isn't a great look for it, but this looks like it's going to be a first-person horror, psychological horror type thing, where you are being pulled in and out in your dream state, in your nightmare state, going back into this weird World War I horror kind of nightmare realm, and it's seeping into your waking world and stuff like that. It's a big it reminds me a lot of The Darkness, actually, which is an LP on the channel. If you want to check it out, it's a fun one. It's one of my earliest ones. Because there are sections in that where the main character goes off into hell fantasy World War I, and it's not exactly like this, but it's similar. I guess there's only so many ways you can do a horrible trench, but this game looks like it's a hide from horrible monsters type thing rather than a first-person shooter type deal. So I'd say that's what they're going with. This is what I was talking about for frame rate stuff. This is not my internet lagging or anything like that. This is what the video plays like. So yeah, not a great look for it, but again, alpha and so on. These are the types of things that you hit in the last 4 or 5 months of development as you start doing polish for these kind of scenarios, or figure out that you can't make it work and just come up with a workaround. That's how that happens. But yeah, he's got things like, oh, I'm awake now, but hey, I'm still seeing weird horror shit happening. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one, but no confirmed date or anything. We don't know when it's actually going to come out. And then the last one, that was probably their better reveal, other than the Terminator thing, but again, we know nothing about the Terminator thing, whereas this is RoboCop Rogue City, which was teased a while ago, and very much teased, because all it did was show off RoboCop, and that was it. No gameplay or anything like that. We are actually going to get a look at some gameplay. So you are playing as RoboCop. Good. This makes sense. Don't call the game RoboCop and not have you actually play as RoboCop. Detroit is going to shit. OCP are pulling some weird shenanigans as usual. You know, if you've seen any of the films, I think you have an idea of what's going on here. But yeah, first-person shooter, you're RoboCop, you're much stronger than everybody else. You've got this auto-targeting reticle. You probably move slow as shit. I can't imagine it's going to be a cover shooter. RoboCop doesn't need to take cover, he's fully armored. I'm wondering how they're going to deal with the issue that he is, like, essentially fully armored. Like, most bullets will do 0 to him. So are they gonna somehow have enemies are somehow outfitted with, like, armor-piercing rounds or, like, what they call depleted uranium rounds and stuff like that? I can't imagine. It would make a whole lot of sense, but I guess maybe they'll have a thing where OCP gets raided and all of their armory is taken or something like that, and that's why RoboCop has to care. And then the last reveal was that Paul Weller. Is that his name? That sounds wrong. I think that's his name. The actor who played RoboCop anyway is returning. They're going to do the voice and likeness for him. Cool. Coming to PC and PS5 and also Xbox. Yeah, and Switch. How the fuck are they going to make it work on Switch? It's probably going to be a cloud game. Anyway, so that was Nacon's presentation. There were more games. but they didn't seem very interesting to me, so I left them off. One or two of them seemed kind of fine. War Hospital is like a theme hospital, but World War One and much more serious. You know, like Theme Hospital, it was very much tongue-in-cheek type thing, whereas War Hospital is like serious, grim wartime stuff. Test Drive is a driving game. World Rally Championship, again, driving game. Blood Bowl is like a Warhammer thing, but also American football kind of thing. So like, what was that called? Dead Ball Zone, that kind of thing, that kind of game. And Clash Artifact of Chaos, I have no idea what that is. Didn't even look it up, didn't even come up in my searching, so that's probably not great. And then these three things are just accessories. Nothing important. Nacon also do fighting sticks for fighting games, and they do, I think they have like a flight sim controllers as well, so they do like peripherals as well, so that was part of their presentation. Elsewhere for updates though, so outside of Nacon, so this is kind of a PSA thing following on from the Roe v. Wade situation in the US. There is a indie bundle for abortion funds over on itch.io. It's hosted by Caro Asercion. These are like 1,122 games for a tenner. Like, there are tons and tons. This keeps going. Like, the list just keeps going. Tons and tons of games. I will point out that they're not all video games. A few of these are like board games or role-playing games and stuff like that, because itch.io hosts games in general, not just video games. But yeah, it's a tenner. It's still going for the next couple of days if you wanted to check them out. There's a lot of interesting games there. And also, you know, good cause. Lollipop Chainsaw Remake has been confirmed. So last week there was rumblings because, you know, the previous publisher had kind of come out and was talking about Lollipop Chainsaw again and so on. So it's now been confirmed that a remake of Suda51's Cult Zombie Classic, Lollipop Chainsaw is being confirmed for release next year at some point. So it is going to be a remake. The remake is being developed by a combination of veteran Lollipop Chainsaw staff and newcomers, and will feature more realistic visuals. I don't like the sound of that because the game was very much a parody kind of thing. I guess we'll see. And the reasoning for it was, unfortunately, various factors resulted in things making it so that fans can no longer easily play Lollipop Chainsaw, and it has been some time since players have not been able to access the game on current consoles. So the issue here is that Lollipop Chainsaw is a PS3 game and Xbox 360 game. So it being a PS3 game means it's very, very difficult to get your hands on it. It wasn't available for streaming or anything like that. You pretty much had to own a PS3. And similarly for 360, it wasn't part of the backwards compatibility catalog. So you would have had to own a 360 and Lollipop Chainsaw disc to play it. Now, if you want to go back and try to play the game and so on, or don't want to, there is a full LP on the channel, because I have done it for a similar reason, in that it was difficult to find, and I liked the game, so I thought I'd do an LP of it, and I was not expecting it to ever get a remake, remaster kind of thing, because it didn't sell particularly well. But whatever, they're doing it. So one wrinkle though, well, two wrinkles. One wrinkle is that the licensed music, they won't be able to get it back, which is a reason given for why it wasn't part of the 360's backwards compatibility things. They couldn't make an agreement on music licensing. It's probably why it was never added to PS Now as well. So similarly, the remake also won't have the original music. They'll have, I guess, modern music, or please just make music for the game. Just do that. Stop dealing with this licensing shit that makes it hard to keep games going, and just make your own music. Plenty of music and sound designers would love the work. You know, just do it yourself instead of licensing for too much money. The second wrinkle, though, is a bit worse. Suda51 and James Gunn are not involved in the remake. So Suda51 was the original creative director, and James Gunn was the writer for Lollipop Chainsaw. So that's not great that they're not involved. James Gunn, for his part, said, to answer the question in the article being, is he working on it or not? Neither I nor Suda51 are currently involved in this. I heard about it for the first time from Suda a couple of weeks ago. I neither endorse or condemn it. I simply don't know anything about it. But as articles are starting to slap our names on there, I think it's important to make clear no one ever approached us about it. And then Suda, for his part, says, to add my 2 cents, like James Gunn says, neither he nor I am involved in this project at all, and Grasshopper Manufacture, the company he's in charge of, has nothing to do with development or anything like that. So it's Katakawa Games, or formerly of Katakawa Games, are taking over development for the remake. Not great that they're not involved, but at the same time, you can somewhat make an argument that it's just a remake. They don't need to change the writing or character direction and stuff like that. They're just remaking it with modern visuals. You could argue that, I guess. I'm not sure I'd agree, but it's certainly an argument you could make. Okay, Sony did their usual perfunctory indie performance thing where they just show a bunch of indie games and stealthily release videos about them without any fanfare whatsoever. It's not a great way to treat indie developers, but there you are. That's how they're doing it now because they only care about their blockbusters. But anyway, they were more or less, this is confirming that a bunch of indie games that had already been announced for other platforms are also coming to PlayStation. So Sea of Stars, well, might as well play the trailer for it. Sea of Stars is a, what do you want to call it? Like a modern version of like older JRPGs like Chrono Trigger and stuff like that. From people behind the messenger, it's like it looks really nice, really pretty, and this is mostly them just confirming that one, it's coming to PlayStation as well as Switch and I think Xbox and PC, but also it's been delayed. It's gonna come out next year now at some point, so it's not gonna make this year, which is why it has been removed from the game list that we'll get to at the end. Shim, or however you pronounce it. Again, another game that was announced during the indie showcases a couple of weeks ago. Again, confirmed for PlayStation, and again, don't know when the release date is. Cult of the Lamb, similarly, has been announced for a bunch of different platforms. Again, this is just confirming that yes, it will be on PlayStation, and it will be out a couple of weeks. Pretty soon, actually. Signalis, again, another game that was shown off at a bunch of different presentations, and again, this is just confirming that yes, it will be on PlayStation, considering it has a very PlayStation-y presentation. Like, it looks like a PS1 game in a lot of places. Extremely high quality PS1 game if it had come out on the PS1, but that's kind of what it's going for. Like a super duper high quality PS1 game is mostly what it's going for. This was just to confirm, yes, it's also coming to PlayStation, and it also has a release date. It's out like right before Halloween this year. Cool. We'll be definitely playing that on the channel. Will we do a full LP? I don't know. It depends. It'll be a fun game. The Tomorrow Children is an interesting one. So this is a game that was like a collaborative effort to build up a city. An online city, a bunch of people would play together, and you would build like buildings and collect people and NPCs and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, Q Games lost the IP. I forget what the actual fallout was, but it ended up with the game coming offline and people not being able to play it anymore. But now Q Games have since recovered the IP, and they have put the game back up, or are going to rather put the game back up, and this is a sort of relaunch kind of thing, the Phoenix edition. It's rising from the ashes of lost IP, I guess, and it will now be playable again for people who already owned it, and Phoenix edition for people who want to jump in again. It's a very strange looking game. Definitely a bit more of a cult niche thing, but people who did play it really liked it, so might be something to look at. And Curse to Golf. Curse to Golf is getting its release date August 18th, so actually pretty soon. So I might have to add that to the list of games that we'll play this year, but Curse to Golf is a golf roguelike. And I have definitely been burned on roguelikes and roguelites up until now, particularly since Hades and Returnal, because they're two games that do it very well. Despite my own misgivings about Returnal, I can agree it does roguelike part very well. And Hades is like a perfect roguelite game. But this is roguelite but golf. So you play golf, you have X number of hits to get to the end of the hole before, if you run out of hits, that's it. You have to start over again. And I imagine you start over from hole number 1 and get all the way through 18. And there's lots of different abilities that you can pick up, different types of golf ball and stuff like that, to just make things a little bit more interesting. But yeah, that'll be a fun one. Definitely going to give that a look. And probably the biggest announcement, if you like, even though it was still a fairly stealthy announcement, is that Inscription, the indie darling card game that people have been really, really enjoying, is also coming to PlayStation at some point. Don't know when, but it's going to be there at some point. That was a bit of a theme for all of these announcements, is that, yeah, it's coming to PlayStation, but we don't know what. After a lot of bullshit happening, toxic fandom and so on, God of War has finally got a release date. It's going to be out November 9th. It was released to very little fanfare, just a very simple tweet. Yep, here it is. Now fuck off, stop asking us, basically. Just stop asking us for the release date and leave us alone. Stop sending dick pics. Crawl back into your holes and leave us be. That's it. That's the story. It was also... There's a trailer or whatever, but it's entirely CG, nothing, no gameplay stuff. There's an unboxing for the special editions that don't have the game in it. It has steel books but no game. This is just an empty box. I don't understand. There's a bunch of other, like, plastic shit, but... Here's the steel book that's empty. Like, just put the disc in. What's the problem? Weird. It's not even the only special edition that's been doing that lately. There are a bunch of Sony first-party games that have done it. The Horizon Forbidden West one also has a steelbook part of its collector's edition that doesn't have the game disc. Like, is it so difficult to just get a Blu-ray? I don't see the issue here. Valkyrie Elysium also got a trailer and a confirmation of its release date, so the 29th of September. So we saw this a while ago, back in March. It was shown off during Sony's State of Play back then, and it looked a bit rough. Looked interesting, but it looked a bit rough. So it is a third-person action slasher RPG kind of thing. And it didn't look great on its first trailer. I was intrigued, but it was a bit, it doesn't look too good. Or doesn't perform too well. It's looking a lot better now in this trailer. There's still some misgivings. The main character's animations still feel a bit strange. It looks like her attacks are very weak. You know, there's very little response. I guess I'm so used to hit stops now that if I don't see them, it seems weird. But hit stops in general should be weird. I don't know. I'm just so used to them now. I almost expect them to be part of it. But some pretty cool characters, some cool character designs. It looks like you have a rotating cast of like partners that you go through the game with, which you'll be playing primarily as the Valkyrie. Not a huge amount on story or anything like that. I think this trailer was entirely in Japanese, so I have no idea what they're saying, but it looks cool. Additionally to that, they are also going to re-release the PSP game, which was Valkyrie Lenneth, I think that's what it was called. Should be written here somewhere. Valkyrie Profile Lenneth was the start of this IP, so they're going to re-release it because most people don't own PSPs, and the ones they do, it probably doesn't work anymore. So they're going to release that at the same time. So it's coming 29th of September to PlayStation, and then we'll end up on PC a little later on, 11th of November. It's actually quite a bit later. Full month, more than a month later. The PSP game, Valkyrie Profile Lenneth, will also come out on the same day. Probably part of the PlayStation Plus lineup thing, I would hope, as well. Okay, Forspoken, a game Sony has been pushing and then not pushing and then pushing again and then not pushing. Not Sony, Square Enix. It's been delayed. Again. It's been delayed quite a few times now. It was supposed to come out May of this year, and then it was, it was supposed to come out May of this year, then it was pushed to October, and now it's been pushed to January of next year. So it's completely gone off the 2022 calendar. Look for it next year. Probably going to get delayed again. As a result of ongoing discussions with key partners, we have made the strategic decision to move the launch date of Forspoken to January 24th, 2023. All game elements are now complete, and development is in its final polishing phase. We would like to thank you for your continued support, yada 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 yada. We need more time to make the game good. Pretty much. We're thinking if we release it now, people will shit on it, so we need some time to make it actually good. And then finally, with our updates, pretty big update block this week. Games with Gold will no longer have Xbox 360 games included with it. So this is following a trend. Sony did something similar with PlayStation Plus when they stopped putting PS3 games on it. So this is more or less following the same idea. It's just that Xbox won't be supporting 360 games on Games with Gold anymore, and the Game Pass similarly. That's it. That's the news. It's more of a PSA thing. We will no longer be getting any Xbox 360 games included with Games with Gold as of this October. So September will be the last month where you will get 360 games. After that, no more 360 games. It doesn't say if they're changing that, if they're keeping the same number of games and just making it so that it's Xbox One or Xbox Series games that get added to it. I have a feeling that Microsoft are probably looking to phase out games with gold, and trying to push people more towards the Game Pass is my feeling. I think in the long run that's probably what they're going to go for, and the Games Pass will just come with the online part of games with gold. I don't know, that's what I feel, that's where they're going, but who knows. They've probably also just run out of games, to be honest. Okay. New releases this week. So, I was lied to 2 weeks ago, where Madison was supposed to come out, but it didn't. It just decided, nah, I don't want to. And we're just going to push our release date 2 weeks for no reason. No reason was given. But I don't know, it was supposed to come out and it didn't, but it's coming out now. It's out this week. Madison, if you've forgotten, is a first-person horror title where you have a Polaroid camera that is used to solve puzzles and generally flesh out the story. You may or may not be possessed by a former serial killer named Madison, and she may or may not be using you to also continue her killing spree and so on. That is the gist of the game. I think there's some bits of time travel involved as well, where you go through other family members who have similarly been possessed by this person, or not family members. I think it's people who have owned the camera that you have, that they have also been possessed by her at some point. I think that's the deal. Anyway, yeah, creepy, spooky, fun times. And then the exact opposite of Madison is Klonoa. Phantasy Reverie series is a collection of Klonoa 1 and 2 that has been remastered. So nicer graphics, some quality of life improvements, and you get both of the games. I've never played Klonoa, but it is something that people have told me that I should do. I should remedy this and go play Klonoa, so I will do that eventually. If you're looking for some kind of revival of the Klonoa series, like you're a big fan, you're like, why aren't we getting any more Klonoa games? What happened there? Like a lot of Japanese developers who release their older games and like remasters and stuff like that, they're like, yeah, if this does well, if people buy it, then maybe you'll see some new games soon. So yeah, if you want more Klonoa, buy this one, basically. Okay, it is now time, however, to talk about the worst parts of video games, the video game industry. So, Fable, long in development, the Fable reboot, has got a new narrative lead, as their former narrative lead has left the company. So award-winning writer and narrative designer Anna Megal, I don't know, has taken over as narrative lead on Playground Games' Fable reboot. He was previously the lead writer for the game and has now taken over completely as narrative designer. She's also the person who we have to thank for the horrible puppets from Control. That was her doing. So, she's got some interesting ideas at least. Also, other than just Control, she's also worked on Dishonored: Death of the Outsider, and is also working on Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, which was, I don't know about that one, but Death of the Outsider was pretty well received. So yeah, stuff is still happening on Fable, apparently. It's not completely dead, as a lot of people have thought, myself included. Fall Guys went free to play about 2 weeks ago-ish, and has since seen 50 million players play the game. So clearly, going free to play for them was a very, very good idea. In just 2 weeks since relaunching as a free to play game, Fall Guys has seen an incredible 50 million players flocking to its colorful and chaotic shores. It in fact saw 20 million in the first 2 days. That's here somewhere. 20 million players had stumbled their way through the various levels a mere 48 hours after its relaunch as free to play. So yeah, that was a good move. Good move on their part. They're getting a lot of people in, which means a lot of people have a chance to look at the shop and buy clothes and colors and skins and things like that, which is where the real money is made on these kind of free to play games. But good for them. Clearly it's seeing a good resurgence from its initial release. Now that people can get in free, give it a shot, see what it's all about, that kind of thing. Okay, Dutch political parties back gaming loot box ban. So, political parties in the Netherlands have broadly backed a new attempt to block the sale of video game loot boxes in the country. The motion that they are putting forward has described loot boxes as a form of gambling and states children in video games are manipulated to purchase things such as in-game transactions and in-game microtransactions, stuff like that. I would personally remove the children part in that quotes and just say people. Because the people are manipulated in general, just to do that. It has not necessarily just directed at children. While not signed into law yet, the six parties make up over half of the country's Senate and House of Representatives, so it will probably pass. The rest of this article just kind of highlights how other European countries have been dealing with it. Belgium also has an outright ban on loot boxes. The Netherlands previously had fined FIFA over their Ultimate Teams pack thing, where they were given a 500,000 euro fine for every week it didn't comply with pulling FIFA packs out of the game. It eventually hit an upper cap of 10 million euro, but EA unfortunately appealed it and got it overturned. So it wasn't right. This is probably another way to get around it. The reasoning for it is really fucking weird though, in that the FIFA packs themselves are not an isolated game, and they were part of a wider game of skill. I mean, how much skill do you need when your players are all maxed out? I feel like there's not much skill involved there. That's like saying poker is a game of skill when you can just keep buying in and just outspend everybody, you know? Or a game of chess where you can just get new chess pieces. It's not really a game of skill anymore, is it really? Anyway. So yeah, some movement again on the loot box thing. It's not gone. And it does seem like the EU are more interested in dealing with this kind of stuff than anywhere else. And in our weekly Activision news, because there has to be something about Activision, I'm contractually obligated to have something bad to say about Activision. I wrote the contract myself and signed it with myself. But whatever, it's there. So this is coming from the UK regulator investigating Microsoft-Activision Blizzard acquisition. The Competition and Markets Authority are officially going to be looking at the merger. As with all merger reviews, this investigation will consider whether the deal could harm competition and lead to worse outcomes for consumers, for example, through higher prices, lower quality, or reduced choice, etc., etc., etc. They are also, which is an interesting one, they are accepting third-party opinions on this. It's not interesting necessarily, because they're called amicus briefs, which are pretty typical for court proceedings. They're not, I don't think, typical for this kind of thing, but I don't know, maybe. But yeah, third-party opinions can be submitted all the way up to July, and they have till September 1st to decide whether or not they're going to commit to a deeper investigation. The regulator acknowledged that some of its counterparts around the world are also looking into the deal, and it will communicate with them as appropriate. So there might be like, hey, you got any good dirt on Microsoft or Activision? Yeah. Oh, so much dirt. Like big piles of it. Here, actually take some. There's too much. Can't keep it in my house anymore. Great. We're still going to rubber stamp it at the end of the day, though, right? Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, and in weird racist news, basically. Horrible internet racists, I guess. Hideo Kojima misidentifies Shinzo Abe's assassin. Abe? I think it's Abe. Assassin by news channel and politicians and also Twitter shitheads. But there you go. Racist jokes comparing the former Japanese Prime Minister's killer to the Metal Gear Solid creator started the confusion. So here's like some stupid shit. News station in Greece misidentified famous game developer Hideo Kojima as the assassin. There was a tweet going around, which I don't think is here because I have cookies turned off. Or not cookies. GDPR stuff that stops them from embedding things. But anyway, there's a tweet going around that's like, here's the killer, and he has Kojima standing like beside a poster of Che Guevara. There's some other like social stuff socialist stuff that he's then buying. And a news station in Greece misidentified this as actually correct news that he was the assassin. And then a French politician also retweeted these kind of things with the comment, "The extreme left kills," alluding to the pictures that have Kojima with like Che Guevara and stuff like that. Was very quickly shown to be, this is bullshit. It's just horrible internet racists saying all Asian people look the same kind of thing. best time to pull that shit out. But anyway, it aired during a segment on Greek news as well. The station aired images of Kojima, misidentified him as the suspect assassin. Tetsuya is the actual assassin, or suspected assassin at least, has confessed to his actions to the police, admitting that he wanted Abe dead because he was disappointed and upset with him. The police have learned that he, the culprit, had served in the Navy Special Forces. He was passionate about Che Guevara. That news did not come from him, from the suspect. He never said anything about that. There's nothing about his history that says that. There's nothing anywhere else on the news that says that. They got that entirely from the picture of Kojima beside Che Guevara. That's all that's from. So this is ridiculous misinformation being spread about him, and not to be outdone about it, or not to be outdone about it, but they're not taking it lightly. Kojima Productions have since come out to say that they will be suing for libel. So good job, you fucking idiots. But as a great thing said down here is that outlets and media companies shouldn't rip their stories from 4chan or joke accounts on Twitter. So yeah, maybe do some due diligence this time. Okay, finish off with some dumb stuff. So Let Me Solo Her receives congratulatory sword from Elden Ring publisher. So Let Me Solo Her of Elden Ring fame is a is a player who, he might as well be a character at this point, is a player who would come in as a summon to help people who needed help defeating Malenia, one of the hardest bosses, potentially the hardest boss in Elden Ring. Completely optional, but that doesn't stop people from still trying to bash their heads against it, myself included. Yeah, she's hard. She's very, very hard. But he would come in and, there's an option in game to summon people. People would summon him into the fight, and he would defeat her wearing no armor and just a pot on his head and just annihilate her, basically, which is ridiculous. But anyway, he's gotten so popular and so on. He has defeated Malenia 1,000 times, apparently. And for his incredible feats, he was given one of these kits from Software. Now, this isn't like a bespoke thing made just for him. They actually have a couple of these. They sent them out to a few other people. Brandon Sanderson, the author, has also received one of these because he was very praising Elden Ring on his book tours and stuff like that. So this is Let Me Solo Her himself, Klein Zuboy, just showing all the stuff that they got. He was also regaling people about why he almost quit Soulsborne games entirely after fighting Udex Gundyr, the first boss in Dark Souls 3, who is also actually kind of tricky. Particularly if you've never played Dark Souls games, he will absolutely be very, very difficult to fight. If you've played them already, not so much. You get kind of used to his tricks and bullshit. But if Dark Souls 3 is your very first introduction to Soulsborne games and he's the first boss you fight, I can imagine why you'd be like, fuck this. But yeah, he showed off some pictures of the kit. So it's a nice big box. Comes with all this stuff. And a little congratulation thing that actually probably is bespoke for him. Let Me Solo Her, congratulations on your great accomplishment from the Bandai Namco team. And they got a little picture of his character, or how he was typically dressed, which was completely nude, other than, the pants, but you can't take the pants off, and a pot on his head, and 2 katanas, which is pretty fun. And I did remark that they should have sent him a katana because he used katanas, but that was before I realized that this is a kit that they've already made. They have a couple of them just hanging around, probably to send out to people. There's also a wood cutting of Malenia, just the back on it. This is how you know it's a kit, because it's number 12 of 40. They always have a couple of these going around. The scroll was a map of the lands between. She took upside down for some reason. Wait. No, that's the correct way. I was trying to think what way it goes. It's not even the full map. Not even the full map. It's half the map anyway. And then the sword itself. Rise Tarnished on it, and I don't know if it's actual steel or if it's 440 steel or if it's aluminium or what is it. I don't think it was mentioned. Still, for anyone who is into that kind of thing of sword collecting, I was into it for a bit before I was buying shit more or less just because it looked interesting. But carbon 440 steel is not for hitting things with, it's for decoration. Carbon 440 steel will fall apart if you hit it with anything, pretty much. much. And actual proper tempered steel is extremely expensive. So any of those swords that you see on like those different sites, they are very much decoration. They're not real things. Anyway. And you may remember last week EA did a stupid tweet on, she's a 10, but they're a 10, but they like single player games, something like that, something to that effect, and got absolutely shit on by everybody. Led to an internet-wide roasting, and EA is still dealing with angry employees who felt the tweet was an insult to them, their staff, and the games they are making. So yeah, when the social media profile of the company you work for is shitting on the work you and your fellow colleagues do, it's understandable you might have some problem with it. There it is. They're a 10, but they only like single player games. Why am I getting this tweet and not us? Anyway, why didn't I get the one for Kojima? Anyway, so yeah, there was some fallout from the news, from the tweet internally, and they were trying to come up with ways to sort of, roll it back without looking terrible. And there were different things, different stories brought up, and one of them was that the other EA social media accounts, so like the account for Battlefield, we'll say, the account for Dragon Age, the account for whoever, would roast the EA account to say that, no, here's our game's really good, what are you talking about, and that kind of thing. But they figured that this roasting of EA would just reinforce the narrative online that EA's own studios and teams hate the company, which they do. They do. It's like, yeah, you pay us a lot of money, but we fucking hate you. But anyway, we're just waiting for them to bury them like EA do. Kill off all of their good companies. DICE is on the way, BioWare on the way. Just you wait, guys. You're going to the farm upstate. But yeah, they decided to not do that, and the most agreed upon way was for them to just roll it back and go, apologies. We're sorry for saying that, but then they said something really fucking stupid. We'll take this L, because playing single player games actually makes them an 11. I said, fuck off. Just fuck off. Just say, okay, yeah, our bad. But then some revelations from this news is that EA's official Twitter account isn't actually run by anybody from EA. And we're probably unaware of EA's history of not being great with single player games. The particular quote that's often brought up is EA Games president Frank Gibeau, president at the time, saying that single player games were finished and so on. Nobody plays single player games anymore. They're bored of them, etc., etc. Staff running the Twitter account are all new, and that most of them aren't really games industry people and likely had no idea about EA's long bad history with single player games. Why would you have people who know nothing about your industry or your company's history run your social media account? That sounds really fucking dumb. Why would you do that? Should at least have some knowledge of the industry, at least. Really shouldn't understand the company's history as well. It's just a very, very dumb decision to have the Twitter account handled by somebody who doesn't know anything about the company or the industry, and it comes that this kind of shit happens. You were asking for it, really, at that point. Anyway, we'll let Klonoa go, I think. Full screen stuff. Anyway, that was the news for the 4th to the 10th of July 2022. So Nacon's, the French publisher's presentation, it has some really interesting games, but not a whole lot of information about when they're coming out. Hardly any of those have release dates. Steel Rising, I think, is the only one that does. It's September, I think, at some point. So yeah, some stuff to get interested about, but you've no idea when we're actually going to see most of those games. Lollipop Chainsaw Remake, yeah, cool. I mean, the original, it's one of those things that you can normally say for remakes is that even if they do mess it up, the original still exists. You can always still go back and play that or watch that. But going back to play Lollipop Chainsaw is difficult. It's very difficult to get your hands on now, and you need the hardware to run it. There is no digital version of the game, I think. Or if there is, you would still need the hardware to run it anyway, because it would only be available through the PS3 store or the 360 store. The licensing agreement for music is said that that's the reason why it's not being kept on it, but there was no official statement ever made that that's the actual reason for it. I can see why. This is also why I would push developers to not use licensed music unless you really, really need to. I would just say just make your own. Just do your own music. Like, there are so many composers that would love the job to do a fully original soundtrack for the game. Like, they'd love it. Like, just people looking for music are looking for a job for that kind of thing, and the licensing would cost you so much more, and you'd have to pay it for X number of years and so on to keep the game going. It's just massive hassle when you could fix it so easily. But anyway, God of War gets a release date. Yeah, cool. Don't know. I mean, it's kind of soured because of how the fandom has been treating them, and also I'm not super pushed on playing Ragnarok, to be honest. Thought I would be more hype about it, but I'm not. Just not. Really? I'll play it eventually, I'm sure. Whenever it gets added to the PS Plus library, I'll probably play it then. But otherwise, don't expect to see it on the channel this year, at least, because I probably won't bother with it. What other things? Sony, again, treating their indies not particularly well, just stealthily releasing blog posts and trailers, no fanfare or anything. They were not part of state of plays or anything like that. But yeah, a bunch of games that had already been announced at other indie events, and Tomorrow Children getting resurrected, which is good. Like, it's good that these IPs can be rescued from purgatory and stuff like that. I've no personal interest in the game myself, but I'm always happy to hear that they're able to get that IP back and bring the game back for the people who do want to play it. What else was there? Forspoken being delayed, again, not a shock, because what we've seen of it, while it looks nice, its performance has not looked great. And there have definitely been some scenes and some shots from the game that had to look kind of rough, so I can't say I'm surprised that it's been delayed. I'm not exactly shocked about that. Yeah, I don't know. And then there was, the standard industry shit happening. The UK looking into the Microsoft-Activision merger. I don't imagine it's anything more than just by the numbers stuff. Like, that will get signed off on. And even then, what happens if they decide that, no, you can't go ahead with the merger? Like, they're both US companies. Like, yeah, they're global companies as well, but they're headquartered. Like, they wouldn't be headquartered in the UK. They might have some standing if they're still part of the EU, and they might have a headquarters in the EU, but they don't, as far as I'm aware. I think I think Activision at least has a brass plate somewhere in Delaware, kind of thing. They're or maybe they have a basement in the Netherlands somewhere, something like that, where they just buy a plate on a door, and there's no one ever in the building or anything like that for tax reasons. Yeah, I don't know what would actually come of them not just agreeing to the merger, or if the SEC decides, yeah, it's fine, and the UK decides, no, it's not. How does that get worked out? Clearly the merger will, if any of them agree, it has to go ahead. Negotiations or whatever, maybe they have to divest from any of their UK specific companies or something like that, or they'll just pull their companies out of the UK. I don't see how it works if one of them doesn't agree. And it's not just between the US and the UK. The EU are going to have their own body similarly looking into that merger. So I don't know how that works. I would actually be interested to know how that works, but I doubt we'll ever learn about it. I do feel that this will just get stamped away. Knock yourselves out. I can't think of anything else, so I'm going to move into the channel update. So, let me swap back to full screen. So, here, as it stands, is... No, that's the wrong one. My full screen. Why is it F11 to exit full screen, but not to go into full screen? Anyway, here is the suggested games... Not suggested games. The schedule... games, let's go with that, for the rest of the year. So I've also added these kind of small icons just to show games that are done or in progress or whatever. So Vampire, we finished this week. So Part 10, I did a sneaky stream on Thursday to finish it, so if you were going by the schedule, you might have missed it. But yeah, the VOD is still up on Twitch and is also over on YouTube now if you want to get caught up. So it was 10 parts overall. Killed everybody, got the bad ending, got the platinum, which was the plan in the first place. And then I still had my save for the good ending, so we went back and had a look at what happens if you play the game boring and don't kill anybody. That's what you get. You get the good ending. So we're still going to continue some other games, but what is replacing Vampire? So replacing Vampire will be Batman Arkham Asylum. So I've been looking to go back to the Arkham series for a while, and the news that Gotham Knights will be out at some point this year, which is sort of continuing the Arkham story. I think officially Suicide Squad is officially continuing the Arkham story, but I believe Gotham Knights is set in a universe that is after Arkham Knight. So I just wanted to get back up to speed on it. So we're going to play the Arkham Asylum, the first one. I am planning to do them all. Probably not Origins. I don't know. I might do Origins as well. But yeah, Arkham Asylum will be replacing Vampire going forward. As well as Vampire, we are also going to be continuing the other games that are currently up on the channel. So we have The Quarry, which is a kind of slasher type game where they're being hunted by a creepy family out in the woods, although we've now learned that that's not entirely what's happening. There may be some creepy monsters out there too, or something to that effect. So yeah, the story has really geared up and has twisted quite a few times now, and there's some interesting shit happening. But yes, we will be continuing The Quarry on Wednesdays. This week, or next week, whatever way you want to put it, we will be playing Bayonetta instead, because Vampire is not around, because we finished it. And we haven't played Bayonetta in a good while, so I do want to get back to it. So yeah, we will be playing Bayonetta on Thursday this week. The reason for that is my D&D game typically is on a Thursday, or the game I play in rather, is on a Thursday, usually. However, that has changed. It's now going to be on Tuesdays for the next while, so I'm just going to swap days. So streams that would typically have been on a Tuesday are now going to be on a Thursday. So that would have been, in the past, Vampire or Bayonetta, depending on who won the coin toss. Now it's going to be Bayonetta or Batman, depending on who wins the coin toss. Although I'm just going to straight up go, no, we're playing Bayonetta this week, and that's the end of that. And we'll get into probably Batman the week after, and then we'll start doing the coin flip. And Xenoblade for Saturdays, Xenoblade Saturdays, might as well just call it that. Thought I would have finished it this week, but turns out cutscenes take a long time to play out. So no, we didn't manage to finish it this week. Next week, almost certainly, we will finish Xenoblade Chronicles. Even if it has to be a 5-hour stream, we're gonna finish it. I don't imagine it will take that long, but if it has to be, we'll make it happen. We're very much right at the end of the game now. We're in the last dungeon, approaching the final boss, so on. Bosses, it's a Japanese role-playing game, which means the boss has, several forms, or several separate boss fights, if that's the way you want to put it. But that is the plan. Going there, Wednesday, The Quarry, Thursday, Bayonetta, and Saturday, Xenoblade Chronicles, and then Sunday we'll be back for a weekly news recap. So that's what we'll be doing. What else did I want to say? Something. I may do a stream on Monday. I've been looking for a game to play that isn't a game I'm streaming, and a game that I can play without having to stream every part of it. So I'm not sure what exactly fits the bill for that, but I might stream something on Monday. Thinking either Neo or Monster Hunter, because both of those you can kind of play without hitting the story too much. Monster Hunter, it's mostly just, here's a new monster, go fight it. There's not too much story to it. There's only very specific hunts that are actually affect the Monster Hunter story, and even then the Monster Hunter story is not all that interesting. And Neo, similarly, you can always just replay the levels to grind in between before you actually go back to the story levels. And even then, story levels again, there's only some levels that really count in story, so I don't know. I don't know is the answer, and I don't know if I actually will stream on Monday. It's a question mark there. But the other ones, they will be going ahead. Quarry on Wednesday, Bayonetta on Thursday, Xenoblade Chronicles on Saturday, and then back to weekly news recap on Sunday. So I'm gonna finish up there. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, whatever it is you happen to be doing. If you are having breakfast, or if you are getting ready to go about your day, or if you're unwinding for the rest of the day, or whatever it happens to be. I'll see you guys on Wednesday for the party. Okay? Bye-bye.
Thank you.